Welcome to my YouTube page. If you are an existing subscriber, good to see you again. Thank you. Again, please do remember to turn on your notifications so you can get um, details when videos of this kind is being uploaded. And if you're new here, please do also subscribe, like, and comment as well. And also, just as part of your appreciation for the work that is being done as part of the integration of particularly ethnic minorities, and not just ethnic minorities, international students in particular into the NHS as part of career development, which is what this YouTube page is dedicated to. So, what am I talking to you about today? Now, we will be looking at a very, very serious and important issue. This is the interview etiquette. And why is this very important? Interview etiquette. What does it actually mean in itself? You know, why is it a discussions that we need to talk about? And the reason for that is, my experience working with diverse group of individuals, international students, people of diverse background, coming from a different environment, from what the UK interview setting is like. There's a clear evidence from my experience that people have a different understanding of what is expected of them when it comes to UK interview standard. And there's nothing wrong with these, but it just happens to be the fact that when you're in Rome, you have to behave like a Roman. And the inability to be flexible, to adapt to the environment you find yourself could cost you greatly. And there's a clear evidence that, some people, whether you are being told directly by the recruiter or the recruiting manager, or you are just giving a feedback to say, sorry, you've not passed your interview, there are times whereby little things such as the way you've presented yourself during the interview has influenced the interview outcome. And what are the key things you need to be very mindful of if you are sitting for an interview? And my experience has shown a great deal how these actually play out. One of them is the fact that even in a prep session, you do see common mistakes that I am very much aware that if they repeat themselves in interview setting, most definitely that will be the end of that interview. Particularly, you might get to participate to the end of the interview around the questioning. But one thing you can be most certain about is that whatever you do after that particular period is literally them just fulfilling the HR obligations of giving you opportunity to answer your question. And how does this actually play out? So let's look at some of the most common mistakes you will get to do, or some of you actually do. I suspect it's not deliberately, but in some circumstances, whether you've taken it to be inconsequential, you only get to find out how much of consequences they do have when you receive your feedback. So, number one is if your interview is virtual, what is the best approach to virtual interview? First and foremost, you're having an interview on Teams. A lot of you probably have little to no knowledge of what how Teams functions, or even if you do, you might not take some of the key features on it seriously. They are not there for decoration. They are not there for just mere design. They are there to play a key role in terms of putting you up for a professional environment. And the number one thing is, if you're coming to your interview, you should have a background that actually reflects a professional setting. And putting on a background is very, very key. Getting the right chair to sit on, having the right lighting in the environment you are conducting your interview. Your interviewer should not have to tell you how dark or how dark your room is, or if they are unable to see you. Your room should be bright enough. They should be able to see you. You should have a professional background on. They should not be seeing your cupboard. They should not be seeing your wardrobe. They should not be seeing any amenities in your room or anywhere the interview is taking place. Also, try to join that interview at least 15 to 20 minutes before, just to make sure that all your internet connections are in the right places. You have the right level provisions in terms of internet connection, and also if there is the need for a mitigation, or do you need to have a contingency either to use your hotspot immediately so you can have a successful connection without disruption during the interview period. And all these things are things that a lot of people actually neglect or do not take serious until you enter the interview. And halfway through the interview, you then encounter all these problems and you expect them to sympathize with you and just get on with the interview, understanding that these kind of issues happen. Yes, you might find yourself in some circumstances where there are people that will be understanding, but do not expect it across the board because you're not the only candidate they're interviewing. And number one, being an international student has already even put you at disadvantage if you think about it in many ways. One, you are coming into that interview, you need them more than they need you. Reason being, you are an international student. Yes, you might be knowledgeable, but you need a job as part of your career progression, and you need a job because you have someone that is looking for sponsorship. So if you do not come in a professional approach, with a professional approach to your interview, what does that tell them? You might have somebody else, with all the necessary documentation they need, either indefinitely to remain a British citizen, and as an individual, they are good enough, just as the kind of standard you present to them. Who will they go for? They presented themselves smoothly, well polished, well spoken. So you have something to prove to them rather than they are having something to consider as part of your application. You have to prove your worth to them. And a lot of people do not take these things seriously enough. And I've got to witness it at first hand myself. And I know for sure it has had many implications in interview setting. Secondly, arriving late at your interview. Now, um, I struggle and it does baffle me to sort of wrap my head around why anyone will think it's appropriate to arrive late at any event, not to even talk of something as serious as interview. And whether you want to believe this or not, the UK job market is absolutely in a tough state right now. There was a stat that recently came out that for every single job in UK, there is about 145 um, graduate level um, applicants available. And these evidence are not made up, or these stats are not made up. The reason being is if some of you actually look at your university and consider the fact that how many people you graduated with. You might have come out with distinction, and I'm very much aware that you're not the only person that come out with distinction in your group or your course. There are people likewise as well from different universities with distinctions, great deal of profile around them, very good academic achievement, beautiful work experience, nice CV, and nice history they can write about. Now you've had opportunity to be trained, to be supported up to interview level. And the idea of arriving at your interview early seems to you something that is rather you're doing your interviewer a favor, or you think it can only be appropriate for you to arrive just on time for your interview. If you have an interview for 10 o'clock, you should be within that premises as early as 9:30. Get to familiarize yourself with the hospital. By the time you get to know the department you're going to, the time you get to settle down, it's probably about 9:45. And by the time they start to call you in, you're probably getting close to about 9:50. They will want you to be well settled. They want to offer you drink and also themselves having to prepare themselves, get all the notes ready. If there is a candidate before you, obviously the candidate is coming out of the room. They want to get a refreshment break before they call you in. And if all these are not in place, you don't expect the person that is interviewing you to be rushing just because they want to consider you, because they want to consider you as the next available person that they need to attend to urgently. And that's not the case. They are in no rush. You have something to prove to them, and you have to be at your interview early as possible, just so you can give yourself a fair chance. And the last part as well, which is also something very important, is dressing up for the occasion. You're going to an interview. I suppose a lot of you are familiar with the quote that says, you dress the way you want to be addressed. You should be showing up to your interview in a professional outing. You dress up, matching the occasion. Um, you can be well spoken, but if you present yourself as someone that is uncaring, that you can't even be bothered to dress up to look after yourself well enough, I suppose there is subjective interpretation here, but those are the kind of things that will probably reflect in the mind of the person interviewing you and influence the judgment. If you're interviewing for a very respectable position, I suppose you want to show up in a respectable manner as well. That is something you need to consider seriously. And another aspect of what needs to be discussed, which is very, very, very important, is that depending on wherever you're watching this video, um, if you're someone in Nigeria, you also have to understand that this is a different country, and in UK things are slightly different, and the culture is as such that they respect you enough to invite you for an interview, and then they expect you to be able to provide something worthy of them scoring you on. If you enter your interview room with little to no knowledge about the job, you cannot even get the right name, the name of the hospital right. You cannot even tell them the job you're sitting for, or you cannot even get things as basic as the trust values right. That says everything that they need to know about you. So, the intention around this video is to tell you things around some of key interview etiquettes, which amongst them, number one, arriving early to your interview. Number two, making sure that you know the full name of the hospital, the jobs, and be fully aware of the people sitting on the interview panel. Don't mix up their name, listen carefully. Likewise, as well, another very, very key important point if you have a virtual interview, make sure that your environment is professional, you have a good background in place, good internet connection, and you actually represent yourself well when you get to that interview environment. So, thank you again. I hope this video is helpful, just as many other videos that you will find on this page. If this is your first time here, or if you're existing subscribers, there are numbers of materials on NHS interview, your success to NHS interview, that is available on this page, which you can explore. And thanks again. Do like, comment, subscribe, and put on your notification. And you can leave a comment on any subject you would like me to cover. Thank you. Take care of yourself.